How's everybody doing this morning?
I think everyone's on mute.
Doing great, thank you. How about you?
We're good. We got 26 people already.
Great news.
I know we're going to start in a second, but this is very casual, but I'm going to ask a question if anybody wants to answer. So this is obviously on e-commerce. Have you guys attended a lot of similar seminars in the past? Anybody want to tell us? And are you currently selling online? That's the other question. You can put it in the chat too if you don't want to pick up.
I am, this is Stephanie Burton. I'm very new to this process, but after your last, the last seminar, I was thinking about and starting to gather to do some selling on Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, good.
It kind of motivated me to do, you know, I had a box of clothes and I'm like, what am I doing with this? So I think I'm gonna, since they're new, I'm gonna actually go on the Facebook Marketplace and sell them. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice. Good. Good. That's what we like to hear.
All right, we'll get
Good
going.
for your business.
Yeah, we'll get going here. Welcome. Good morning, everybody. This is the e-commerce webinar series that SBDC has been putting on in conjunction actually with the Temecula Chamber of Commerce. We're going to cover marketplaces today. So welcome to everybody. And if you're new, welcome today and welcome back to those of you that have been with us for the last three other parts. I'm going to turn it over to Brooke Nunn. She is the events coordinator with the Temecula Chamber of Commerce, and she's going to welcome everyone today.
Great, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I want to welcome everyone to this webinar. We want to thank the Small Business Development Center so much for putting on these webinars. They have been extremely informational and lots of great content. So we appreciate partnering with them. They are a great resource for your business. So if you have the opportunity to write down their contact information and reach out to them, I highly recommend it. Everyone will receive a follow-up email, I believe all the registrants will receive an email with a video and slideshow. So if you have any issues with able to hear or see everything, you will receive a follow-up email. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. I am over at the chamber and I will put my contact information in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate that. SBDC is actually an organization. We're funded by the Small Business Administration. Actually, we are also funded by our state and local and county governments. And we offer one-on-one consulting at no cost to you. Actually, we have an excellent team where we provide training sessions. We do these webinars, and we also inside of our one-on-one consulting, we're able to address any and all business function questions. So we help businesses start, we help them expand, and we help them kind of answer a lot of questions that they kind of come up upon during the course of business. And so obviously for right now, actually we partner with Temecula Chamber of Commerce primarily because we kind of saw a need to put on this type of series to reach out to small business owners who hadn't necessarily been online and kind of teach you a little bit about the language that's used in trying to get your online presence, and also navigating it and understanding what it is, what it means, and what your options are. So by the end of today's series, we're hoping that some of you, kind of like Angela did, you kind of get your feet wet, figure out, maybe this is for me, where I sit inside of all our options, and hopefully reach out to us to help you make the best decision possible too. So our first webinar, we covered an overview of the digital footprint. And then the second webinar, actually, we discussed social commerce, where we talked about Facebook and Instagram. And then actually last, we had Nathaniel Quinn on where he talked about website platforms. And so today we're going to cover marketplaces. Actually, Yesem is going to Yesem's going to be the first speaker. She's going to take the lion's share of the subject matter. I'll turn it over to her to introduce herself.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. That's awesome. Thanks and welcome to everybody who's joined us. So we're thrilled to have you and talk with you. So please ask questions as we go along. You can record those in the chat button, as you know. Just a little bit about my background, and you probably don't need to don't need all the detail here, but I've been a marketer with a master's in this for about more than 25 years, not to age myself, but one of the things I've done is I've been in charge of a e-commerce group developing and selling products on these e-commerce channels, and that included product development, not just the sales part. So, and I do have some experience across channels, and going to cater this session today to helping you decide whether you should be on these channels and which ones are right for you. So, but if you come and contact our center, if you need it, once the decision is made that you want to be on there, we can work with you one-on-one on how to actually achieve that. So this is going to be a little bit on the strategy level, if you will, instead of all of the detail you need. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jackie.
As you guys, some of you I've already met. Actually, thank you for some of you for reaching out. I've actually had some pretty good projects come up that are along these lines, but basically I've joined SBDC. I actually own my own business for over 2 decades in San Diego, a seafood wholesale distribution company. And with that, just having the ups and downs and wearing all hats of business ownership. So I feel that I can provide some really good feedback and advice and consulting. I'm with SBDC in terms of the marketing, strategic marketing, branding, and messaging, and digital marketing. So, if you have any questions that you want to reach out specifically to myself, I hope that you would do that.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah.
So we'll go through why you should be considering marketplaces. If anybody is, write down in the box, because we'd love to know if anybody's already on these channels we're going to discuss today. But the other question that you'll want to tackle is, once you make the decision to sell online, we've covered some different options in the past 3 webinars. Today we'll focus on marketplaces. There are a lot of marketplaces out there, but we're going to think about which ones you might want to use, and we singled out 3 because 1 hour is just enough to cover. The big obvious one we all know obviously is Amazon, but we're going to also get into eBay and Etsy because each one offers something unique and different. So let's start by stating the obvious. And some of these numbers, I mean, you already know this stuff inherently, but some of the numbers will surprise you. This type of data gets reported maybe like annually. So this is last year's data. Literally almost $590 billion spent in the United States was on e-commerce last year. We all know what happened to e-commerce with COVID, right? So I'm someone who likes to go grocery shopping, and waste a little time because that's good relaxation. You get to pick things yourself. Well, that hasn't always been the case through COVID, right? So we know that's probably gone up 20, 30, 40%, especially when it comes to grocery and some other items. So this is blown up even more in 2020. You already know Amazon is the leading e-retailer in our country, actually globally. $280+ billion last year. So that's a lot more now. Okay, here's the most interesting piece. About 320 million population, 130 million Prime users, Amazon Prime users in the United States. So about 57% of all users of e-commerce are Prime, or all Amazon's shoppers are Prime users. So that's very, very interesting, because what that means is people are really loyal to these platforms. Interestingly, if you ask Amazon users, okay, well, when you're going to buy a product, where do you go research that? And if you ask an Amazon user, guess where they're going to look at? They're going to look at Amazon rather than Google. So Google is extremely important, but Amazon is right up there. So we want to make sure to share that information. So lots of marketplaces. Here are how they ranked about a year ago, about 2018, apologize. Amazon is by far the largest, followed by eBay, Walmart, and some of the ones we're going to talk about, like Etsy is pretty small, but specialty, so it's important in its niche. So lots of data for you, but with that, I'll turn it over to Jackie to talk about Etsy for us.
Great. Actually, Etsy is kind of a fun marketplace, right? And it's not for everybody. And that's kind of the point of our presentation, and for each business owner to kind of distinguish, okay, that's not me. I don't make handcrafted, vintage items, but that's what Etsy's focus is. It's for artists and people that like handcraft products and want to sell them online. And so they make handmade goods, also custom made products. So if you have like digital printing items, they do like posters and cards. And so you can actually put your names in it, invites and things like that are very creative. Some of the other items that the sellers on there sell are vintage items. And actually they do have rules about, what is considered a vintage item. So when you start thinking about Etsy, that's something to consider. And then also unique items they're manufactured, but they're unique. This is not a place where you're really going to compete on price. I mean, clearly people are going to look at price, but that's not the point. The point of this is how unique is your product? Do people feel like that they have a connection with, your creativity? So the pros, we'd like to kind of give you, the reasons why. Now you've figured out, yeah, this works for me. But it is basically an inexpensive way. You don't have a way of marketing your product online. You don't have to pay to be here. You do have to pay to post your products, and I'll get to that in a few slides. But as far as the pros, it actually helps streamline the inventory management process. So for example, if you're on BigCommerce, if you're on Shopify, and you have your own website, it integrates with your inventory management. So you can also track and see what you're buying and selling and your profitability. So for that reason, it makes it really nice. The other nice thing is you can actually integrate it with your marketing and your social commerce. So it goes hand in hand with Facebook posting and Instagram. And it provides some really good analytics. That's what's kind of nice about these platforms is that the background, not only do you have the exterior interface with your customers, you also get some really good analytics on the back end of it. And Etsy also allows you to kind of engage. So one of the nice things that you can do is use the feedback from your customers. That's one of the, if you ever go on an Etsy site, you can see that there's reviews and people providing information. The downside is, it gets to be a pretty cluttered, full house of, artistic products out there. So there's not only going to be one candle. So you're going to have a lot of different vendors that have a lot of different candles. And although, yours might stand out, it gets to be, pretty crowded. So that it's a con, but at the same time, you also have to say, how can I differentiate myself? You can see in this photo, they do a good job. I think it's pretty, kind of telling you up front the scents that they offer and the packaging, kind of a look and feel. So that's kind of the strategy you want to approach. Another con is the fees. The fees, although they're minimal, if you had your own website, there would be no fees. You don't have to pay. Obviously, credit card fees are always going to be there, but there's no, fees involved. So that's kind of the downside. There's lots of competition. We talked about that. You're essentially renting a stall online is kind of the way it should be looked at. And so, when you're a renter, you really don't have that much control over the branding. You know, the background of your website is not going to be what you would have if you chose and branded it yourself. So it's kind of limiting. And and the other downside is the lack of communication that you're able to have with your customers. Etsy doesn't really kind of promote you, you know, talking to your customers and having a two-way dialogue, really. And so for that reason, you know, it obviously makes it a little more challenging. So we have a couple tips here on how to successfully market your product on Etsy. So one of the things, obviously, you want people to know what product you're selling. So you want to use, you know, the very descriptive keywords and words that really, you know, don't make it difficult for your customers. You know, if you're selling a candle with essential oils and you know that that's your target, say that it's essential oils and that it's a candle. If it's high end, you know, you want to kind of use very descriptive words to draw your customers in. One of the other nice things about these platforms is they give you the opportunity to upload all these beautiful photos. And oftentimes, if you do have artistic product, you definitely want to, you know, post beautiful photos. Another tip you can do is, even though Etsy doesn't really encourage you to kind of have a two-way interaction with your customer, when you package, kind of create the experience for your customers. Drop your business card in there and, you know, reach out to them for them to contact you so that they can go directly to your website and maybe, you know, kind of avoid paying the extra fees. When you actually ship or have people reach out to you, design some sort of a newsletter, you know, product alerts, and have a strategy and how you're going to communicate with people when they actually reach out to you and sign up and really become part of your community. So on Etsy, you have to renew your listings. So your products, if they're not renewed, and it's every 4 months, basically they go out of listing. So you want to keep renewing them, and there's a fee with that. So it's like 20 cents to renew each item. And so the nice thing about renewing your listing is the product comes back up to the top. It's kind of like Craigslist. If the, you know, the post goes down to the bottom. So this is one way that you can do it. You know, so your product comes up to the top again, and it creates more interest and makes you more relevant. And so when you do that, there's actually within Etsy, you can do it automatically. So you don't have to keep you know, constantly doing it on your own. So the other thing that you want to do is encourage your customers to provide feedback, and then even use the feedback inside of your posting for your products. So that's another tip that would be very helpful for you. And also you can make announcements on your Etsy site about new product launches, or if you have overstock. So just different things that you can do. It's limited, but take the opportunities to try to keep engaging your customers. So like I said, it's 20 cents listing fee for the items that you're selling. And this doesn't sound like a lot, but it gets to add up. You know, like I said, if you have your own website, you don't have to bother with that. But Etsy's kind of, the nice thing is they have a huge audience that, you know, they bring to you. You probably might not be found if it weren't for Etsy. So I think a very small fee considering the audience that you're able to attract. So there's also a 5% transaction fee, 3% plus the 25-cent processing fee. So it's, you know, you have credit card charges in there and stuff. So there's fees, and you know, so actually, yes, later on is kind of go more in depth inside of Amazon, but it's the same concept with all of these platforms, these marketplaces. They make it easy for you to introduce your product, but at the same time, it's going to cost. And then the last is advertising fees. So if you choose to advertise on Etsy, there's extra fees with that. Okay. So that's Etsy. Now Yasim's going to go over eBay.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. So eBay, you may not have looked at eBay in a while. I don't know if you have, but you may recall it from years ago when it used to be the garage sale of everything, and it was an auction site. So eBay's come a long way. So let's show you what's happened. First of all, I was spending some time on there, obviously, also to freshen up before this presentation. You can buy anything on eBay. You can actually do your clothing shopping on eBay, and electronics, and, you know, new products, fixed prices, not auctions like it used to be. If you're wondering is my product right for eBay, here's what we want you to do. We want you to go to explore.ebay.com and take a look at what's trending and take a look at if you can find similar items on the platform. You may easily be able to locate items similar to yours. It is a very low cost of low barrier to entry to start selling on eBay. So we're going to tell you why. Despite what I said, eBay does retain its brand image as the garage sale of the internet. So there are still closeouts and used items. That doesn't mean you can't sell your product successfully as well. Advantages and disadvantages. It's going to be really quick to get on eBay. It's cheaper than Amazon. You can list up to 50 items for free, and you only pay when they sell, which really makes it a no-risk endeavor outside of a little time you have to spend. eBay gives you additional control flexibility. It is very unlike Amazon. You have custom options, you have branding opportunities, and you all know Amazon has its own items. It competes with you when you sell on Amazon. Amazon competes with you. eBay does not do that. On the downside, it is a little bit of a mess, with the catch-all platform that it represents, and it doesn't have as much traffic as Amazon. It's not as large. But so those are the advantages and disadvantages. I like it because it's free and it's something worth trying. You can quickly test it for no additional cost, just for a little sweat equity. So it's worth it, worth testing it. Like I mentioned, eBay has transformed from being the platform where you used to auction and bid for things, and of course that comes with risks. So you're thinking, why would I want to sell my items in a bidding environment? Don't worry about it. There is a buy now method, so plenty of people sell new items on eBay. That's what the point of this chart is. So both options are available to you. So how do you list your products? Super easy. There's a link. You're going to get a copy of this presentation, so I won't read every detail. You can use that link. It's a quick listing tool. Here's what I want you to do. Take a look at currently sold items to see if you can find anything similar. If not, you'll have to go historically. There might have been some in the recent past. Find an item. It's going to be new or whatever the condition is. I'm assuming most of you sell new things. And you're going to want to add details just like any other platform. The better the photography quality, the better the branding. And if you're not sure, please schedule some time with us and let's review your assets and the color and the size of the item. So you'll need to add those details and a clear description. When you do your descriptions, always put yourself in the shoes of the person who's going to buy your product. What are they looking for? What are they typing in the search bar? So you do want to use all of those words. And lastly, if you have a unique identifier, such as a UPC, that would be very helpful. So how is eBay priced? There are, as Jackie mentioned on Etsy, I mean, it really gets convoluted, and they have multiple ways to make money, as these platforms do. So they're going to charge you for insertion. However, like I mentioned, eBay will not charge you for the first 50 products per month. So that's pretty nice. It does go up after 50 products. If you're a volume seller, you may incur this 35-cent charge. Final value fees. So that's going to be 10%. So that's like the Amazon referral fee. So this is why eBay is cheaper than Amazon. And again, they'll want to charge you advertising if you want to pay for that separately to be found a little bit easier. Lastly, eBay tends to work with PayPal. So all the packing and shipping will also belong to you in addition to PayPal fees. On the right is an example. If you sell an item for $32, let's say you did not invest in marketing separately, you're going to owe 10% to eBay. You're going to incur PayPal fees, and the shipping and handling could be $5, $10, depending on how large that item is. So let's keep going. But this is overall, this is cheaper than Amazon. Okay, I'm just going to mention that, and the URL is at the bottom for you. There is a eBay fee calculator by 3D Sellers, which I found very useful. So this is a good place for you to go and play with different price points and see how much money you'll be making. So one thing we're going to tell you throughout these sessions is to please do your math. If you're not sure, come to us. We'll help you do your math to make sure you're not losing money, because it is so easy to miss a component and you're like, I just lost $10 instead of making money, which is what I spent all this time on. So that can happen. So you want to make sure. Here is a copy of insertion fees, 35 cents and then 10%. And then it does vary between categories. So books are 12%, musical instruments are 10, and then you can see that heavy equipment is cheaper to put on eBay, but then they charge a $20 insertion fee. So you can see that they have varying policies for various categories here. So last thing I want to share with you on eBay, if you want to profit, which of course, otherwise why would we spend our time, right? You do need to learn how to price your items. Look at closed listings. Don't necessarily, so this is a good option for closeouts, right? If you have a lot of inventory from when you were closed, if you're a retail place and you got stuck with some winter inventory, for instance, or some, previous season, good idea to consider eBay for that, right? So don't necessarily just go by retail value. And it is possible that your items are so unique that you're not going to find them. Then go on Etsy, go on Google, and see if you can find other places those similar items were sold. Absolutely know your costs. We gave you some tools to utilize, and then call us, schedule some time. Let's review it together. And then last piece is when you post an item, let's say you didn't profit very much and it took a long time, well, we can change some things around. Those initial postings are for you to really learn what you're doing. Again, you can do that with your SBDC consultant, but we need to test and learn to optimize it. So it could take a few trials before you get it right. Maybe it's the keywords, maybe it's your pricing, maybe it's your images. So we need to improve those and find a balance where it's moving swiftly at the price point you've specified. Hopefully that makes sense. But really easy platform. I would absolutely recommend this as a starting point for marketplaces. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. That's Amazon, largest platform in the world. I thought this chart was interesting. I wanted to share this with you. It's from our research team. Here are the reasons people buy products on Amazon. As you can see, what's driving their purchases is pricing. They think they're going to find better value. So price is important on Amazon. Low shipping costs, let me translate that. They're either prime buyers or companies that are not prime offerings on Amazon, but they're trying to compete with prime offerings. So they're offering free shipping. You're paying for it. That's another advantage for your customers on Amazon. They do look at positive product reviews. So it's really important to look at these bars because that is the purchase decision hierarchy. And those are the elements on which we need to compete to be impactful and to be successful on this platform. Okay. Let me summarize what this means. I don't want you to have to get stuck in a lot of bars, but it just says one thing. If you're a Prime member, which we looked at that, right? It's 57% of the buyers were Prime. They tend to buy very often. How often do they buy? It's this blue bar here, once every few weeks or once per week. These two bars. And if you're not a Prime member, then it's much more scarce. But when somebody's a Prime member, they're looking for what they can buy on Amazon because their fees are already paid and they'd rather do that than go to the store oftentimes, especially now. Okay, this is interesting. So what do people sell on Amazon? Let's say you're trying to decide if this is the right marketplace for you. If you have a home kitchen product, beauty, personal care, clothing, sports, yeah, all of these things. And Amazon is so large, I wouldn't worry too much about even pet supplies. I mean, but their relative significance is interesting, right? So these are the type of products that tend to sell on Amazon. Now let's really talk about what you're going to sell on Amazon. So I'm going to give you some insight. You want to, so you sell what you sell, obviously. You have a business, but I assume you also have portfolios of products, and you're going to be able to make decisions, and you can bundle products and things like that. So you have decisions to make. Avoid categories that are dominated by major brands. Kleenex is an example I put here. If you are making, Band-Aid, maybe avoid that. It's taken over, paper products by very big brands. Not going to do well if you're competing with them because they're all over the place. If you're selling t-shirts, I would not recommend being on Amazon with very plain, like Fruit of the Loom type t-shirts. I don't think any of you would be selling this, but just as an example. Why? Because Amazon has introduced its own brand. And it's going to be really difficult to compete with Amazon because it goes and buys products directly from China, probably bought out the factory even maybe. And, we're not going to be able to compete with something where Amazon's already got its own products in the category. Where you have a very large competitive edge is with unique items, exclusive things. Either you buy them or you're making them, you're producing them, or things you've curated that are hard to emulate. Great idea, Amazon, to put them on Amazon and try it out. High demand items more than very obscure things. You do want to look for low competition overall. And there are some tools when we have some consultants with those tools. So call us and we will, look at all those reports. So some of our colleagues have access to this stuff. So we will get reports for you. So if you're not sure about your categories, we can look at what competition looks like in those categories. As a rule of thumb, you want to make sure you're at about 40% margin before you even take Amazon seriously, because I'm going to show you why. It may not end up being profitable otherwise. Hopefully, I'm not overwhelming you with too much information. Hopefully, it's helping you decide as you go. One of the first things you might have in mind is, all right, well, I already have this business, but if I didn't, what type of people would go to Amazon to sell their products? So there are generally 3 buckets, and we want to definitely steer you to one of these. We're not going to tell you which till the end of the slide. So the first bucket of people is I've heard the term arbitrage. So they buy. Literally, there are apps out there where you can go look at like what's on the shelf at Walmart or Target on closeout, and then instantly put like 5 products on Amazon. Buy them, throw them in your cart, or digitally buy them digitally and go throw them on Amazon as an FBM product. This doesn't add a lot of value to the economy. I don't think any of you will be interested in this type of Amazon transaction, but it is something people do. You should be aware of, because a lot of training out there is catered toward these types of people. It is very labor intensive, and I don't know, it just seems like it might be hard, but people do make money doing this. You can also import products. On Alibaba, there is other companies like Alibaba as well. And here's a problem you're going to run into, though. Those suppliers, the minute you succeed with an imported product and you've spent out of pocket to bring the inventory over here, they can actually sell their product directly on Amazon. Amazon has offices in China, and oftentimes, like when I buy something, it's been the case where it takes like 3 weeks and it shows up in Chinese on the packaging, so I know it came directly from the supplier. So that's who you'll be competing with. The third category is your own brand. You could be importing it, but it's your own brand. You developed it, you own something, you own its function, its looks, its design. That will give you a stronger competitive position, and you're going to have a much lower chance of imitators. And there's other advantages, like you'll be able to claim your brand, and which means Amazon will allow you to advertise it, which we'll get into. I hope I'm not moving too quickly, but I'm going to the next piece, which is a great example. I found this about 6 months ago. Same shirt in the middle, same exact product. This is why your own brand is important. On the right-hand side, I cannot pronounce the brand because it looks to me like the supplier used their own name. But the price is the same, the description is the same. It is the O-neck A-line tunic blouse. That's what they named it, $17.99. Number 82 item in tunics. On the left-hand side, same exact item, number 8 item in tunics. So which one do we think is selling better? Obviously the number 8 item. The only thing is they actually put a name there that kind of sounds like a Western name. Not a great name, but it sounds Western. It's its own brand. So that's the only difference. This is a great test scenario. That is what a brand can do. What are profitability drivers? So you don't just want to compete on Amazon, be on Amazon, you also want to make money on there. Here is the cheat sheet. Is your item small? How small? Well, the smaller the better. Is it lightweight? Packed item dimensions are hugely important. I'm going to tell you exactly why. But if you have an item like a golf umbrella that doesn't fold, not a good product to put on Amazon. It is going to be extremely difficult because shipping that item, because it's not a standard ship, is going to cost you more. There are different types of costs you'll incur selling on Amazon, which we'll get into. We'll break it all down for you. You do want to make sure, well, some of those costs are fixed costs. It seems like a fixed cost. A lot of it does. So the higher the retail price of your item you're selling, the better off you are. Do not try to sell a $10 item. It just makes 0 sense unless your costs are so low. But then we can, call us and we can work with you. Maybe there are some opportunities to bundle 2 or 3 items. You can do things like that. The last piece, people lose a lot of money, is if you're selling clothing, for instance, very, very difficult to make it work on Amazon. Because the return rate could be high. Why? Because the size may not be representative, the color may not be representative. Likewise, if you imported a product and you didn't produce it, you can't you can't vouch for its quality, and it'll end up having a very high defect rate. You will get hurt with return rates because Amazon will take it back, and you're eating all that in the back end. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 salient points you should keep in mind. These are the key profitability drivers. So you're going to have other decisions. The first decision you'll encounter when you open up your Amazon seller account is, do I want to be a professional retailer or an individual retailer? Well, it's going to cost you 99 cents, like $1 per item if you're an individual. And it'll cost you $40 if you're a professional. And there's a few other nice things, the features on their professional. So obviously, until you sell 40 items a month, where do you want to be? On the individual side. If you really think you're going to sell 100 items, go right to professional. So that's the criteria you would use to decision. Next decision you will have is, all right, wow, there's so many ways to list your product. Which one am I going to go with? So let's break it down. You can operate Amazon pretty much like eBay, just more expensive, where you can do what we call FBM, fulfillment by merchant. Remember, under eBay and Etsy, you're like, the platform sells your product, but you're the one who ends up packing it, securing it, insuring it, whatever you need to do with it, and shipping it. That is called fulfillment by merchant. You can do that. And then you can also do what we call FBA, fulfillment by Amazon. And Amazon has multiple warehouses throughout not just the country, but globally at this point. So what you end up doing is if you sell a lot of product, you'll have to put them in cases or pallets, however many, and send them to Amazon locations. And Amazon will store those for you and charge you storage fees, which I'm going to show you. But they will handle shipping and packing and everything. You don't have to do anything once you send it out to Amazon. much lower headache, but the cost structures vary. Under fulfillment by merchant, the first option where it's sitting in your garage or your warehouse, depending on how big you are, you can fulfill it. There is eventually, you may be invited to use their prime terms and use their shipping options, and that's an option down the line, so that might be a little cheaper for shipping purposes. So first cost you'll incur, regardless of which method you select, is the referral fee. Remember, with eBay it was 10%, with Etsy it was 5%, right? That was the insertion fee. On Amazon, that's going to be 8% for electronics. Most categories are 15%, but apparel is a little higher, and I don't think Amazon wants people to compete with them on device accessories, so they really set a high bar for 45% on those. So those are just some examples. There is a long list, but I can tell you like 85% of everything is 15%. But we'll look it up, or we can, there's copies on Amazon, on the Amazon site of the whole list. So the second thing you have to think about is, okay, this is an eye chart. Don't read it. Let me just walk you through what it says, because you'll have copies of this. Your shipping costs will be significant. So you are incurring a cost even if Amazon ships it for you, but if you're shipping it from your own warehouse or home, you're actually incurring a high cost as well for an oversized item versus a standard item. So what is the difference between the two? On the right-hand side in blue, let's read, when fully packaged, so that's the item weight plus the package weight, if it's 20 pounds or less, that's the first criteria. The second criteria is that its dimensions need to be 18 by 14 by 8 inches. If anything, any item you have is larger than that, then it will be considered oversized, and you don't want to get into that. Well, you can, depending on the cost of the item you're selling. It tends to be a lot more expensive. So as an example, on the left-hand side, I'm circling it with my mouse. Those are $5, $6. Okay, those make sense, right? For standard sized items. Apparel is a tiny bit more. Oversized items tend to be really large, really high, like $8, $11, all the way to $137 for something that's quite heavy. Okay, and then one caveat to all this, there is a list of categories that are called dangerous. I know that hoverboards were one of them, and there are other categories in there, and they're going to charge higher for those. They have batteries and whatnot. So here is a good example of a dimensional weight. It's very large. This is a really hot seller for Amazon. I can tell you people make a lot of money on this product. The dimensions are over what I just read to you. It's very thin and it's very broad. The weight is low, but the dimensions are very large. So it ends up being $13.20 to just ship it. So that's what Amazon's going to charge the supplier just to ship this item. Okay, there is a worksheet. Trust me, it works, but here's what you do. You look at the weight versus the dimensions. You multiply the dimensions here, CDE, see the height, width, and length. And then you look at if that's larger than the item weight overall. And if the answer is yes, the formula here is on number 3. So the dimensions multiplied divided by 139, magic number, plus the packing weight, and look up the cost for this weight, okay? So you'll have a copy, you can use the formula. Next cost you'll incur is your storage fees. Amazon is nice when it's not the holidays. So January through September, it's quite reasonable. 75 cents per cubic foot, or a little bit less if it's an oversized item. Again, you may have multiple items in the cubic foot per month. And then once the holidays hit, that's going to go triple. So you want to minimize your inventories and be very careful around the holidays because you're incurring a lot of storage cost. The last piece you need to be aware of is returns processing fees. They're going to just charge you back the fulfillment fee they had incurred. So not a good thing to get returns on Amazon. A lot of categories, I looked and looked and looked to see where can I provide you with some good benchmarks. There was literally an NYU article on this from a couple of years ago where I put the link at the bottom. But you should expect between 2 and 15%. You should always test before you put a lot of inventory on Amazon what these returns will be. But clothing will be higher. So, but at the minimum, even with an item you don't think people will return, they will return it. And toys and books will be lower. So that's just some criteria I will share with you. I would put in a minimum of 2%. Certain categories, you have to get Amazon to approve your product before you put it on there. And here's a list. Brand registry is key. We talked about why it's a good idea to have your own brand. Amazon wants to protect its original brands versus arbitrage wholesalers. It really plays favorites when it comes to what kind of seller you are. And if it's your own brand that you're selling and you can prove it with documentation, with like some sort of a trademark, you can they will give you access to tools that enable you to represent it and advertise it. So you will require brand registry to put your to be able to spend more on Amazon to put some sponsored ads and other types of ads. And I'm sure you've all noticed those on Amazon, you know, where you look for an item and then sponsored ones come up right to the top. I'm trying to go quickly, so you might have questions and we can get into those, but let's just go through this. I took 2 items. I had a very complex worksheet, which I still haven't. If you work with us, we'll put it to use, but for, you know, to a visual demonstration, we picked 2 different types of products. One is a light product, the other is a heavy product. One is on the left, the other is on the right. So I'm just going to walk you through, hoping you can see my mouse. So here's a hypothetical retail price point, okay? So Amazon fees will be 15% for both. Shipping and handling, I'm guessing that if I'm selling this Gabriel and this brand, it's going to be about $5. But if Amazon ships it out, Amazon will charge me $3.22 on that. The difference is because it's really, even if you're a big company, it's really difficult to compete with Amazon on shipping fees, right? So even with a small product, their pricing is going to be lower. And I've got to see some of these warehouses. It's incredible. Everything is automated. Stuff comes down. No human hand even touches it. It goes straight to, you know, it's like algorithms deciding, you know, what's the best way to ship it and this and that. And I went to visit Newegg, which is in our area. They have a really good distribution center and they're headquartered here. It was super, super impressive. And same with Amazon. So on the right-hand side with the heavy product, Amazon can ship this product for about $5.66. But the seller, it may incur the seller a lot of money because it is very large. I actually own a couple of these. It's, you know, very big. Shipping to Amazon warehouse. So here's what I mean by that. If you're going to use fulfillment by Amazon, what do you need Amazon to do? To ship it from their own warehouse and to ship and pack it up, and so they're not going to bother you with anything, which is great. But that means we actually have to incur costs to take this product and send it to them in cases and somehow. So that's going to cost us something. Oops, sorry, my bad. I flipped screens. Storage fees could be very high, and you should never rely on having incurring storage fees for 1 month. A conservative way to go would be 2 to 3 months. Because what if your product didn't sell and it just sat there because you're incurring higher costs? So until we've tested that, you should put in like 3 months worth of money, I think. And then also like try to look at the storage rates for the holiday period, because, you know, what if we go into that period and you're incurring this extra cost? I like to be conservative. So you're going to have some returns. I don't think it's going to be really high for these products. So I put in 1% for one, 2% for the other. Just guessing here. And then marketing, this is completely optional, but if you don't market, then you're going to go, especially as a new seller, you're going to go to the bottom of the algorithm and you're going to be on like page 4. And who goes to page 4? No one. So you will, if you want to sell, if you want to raise higher up in their hierarchy, you need to invest. And one thing that we didn't discuss in this discussion, by the way, because it's just an hour, so apologies, is reviews. Reviews are really, really important. And that is one of the things you saw in the beginning, Amazon buyers look at reviews. You're not going to have them in the beginning. So it's going to take a long time till you build that. And then because it's like a chicken and egg thing, right? You're at the third or fourth page and you don't have any reviews. So how do you even get bought so people can start reviewing you? So there's, programs to encourage buyers to try out some of these new products. You might have encountered those, but you need to think about ways to get reviews pretty quickly. So in this math, in this example, back to our math, you can see that the proceeds per item are higher for the first item for FBA, and that comes from the cost differential of shipping and handling because Amazon is cheaper. And for the heavier item, we have much lower proceeds if we ship it ourselves because shipping is so much more. Okay, well, the other piece you need to consider is your cost of goods, right? So it's costing you something to produce or to procure this item or get it co-packed or whatever. Items cost money. So we need to overlayer that. And then you need to kind of think about what is my overall profitability. So in the Gabriel scenario, this is a foundation, I think, a natural foundation. You would make slightly more money in the FBA option, right? And then in the collagen peptides, you would make a lot more money. Actually, you would not want to sell that FBM at all. So I'm not saying these numbers are precise, but this is the math you have to run. And then next thing you have to do is put some product on there, even if it's FBM, because it's quicker to get it up there. So just see, what the reaction is to the product, work it, test and learn, and then start to roll it out at a larger level. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, I'm gonna.
We have a couple questions, Jessa. Actually, someone asked about what FBM is. I know fulfillment by merchant, and someone actually, Mariah answered it inside the chat box.
Thank you, Mariah. Yes, you guys are pros. Yeah, fulfillment by merchant. It gets really confusing, but yeah, and then fulfillment by Amazon. Yeah, because I mean these guys are so large they can dictate like shipping terms, and I'm sure whoever they're using, be it UPS or whatever, their own shipping, they're getting the absolute lowest prices in the world.
Okay, let's see here. Actually, a question on do we recommend Amazon Handmade? That was asked by Michelle. So Amazon Handmade, obviously Amazon's much larger platform than Etsy, right? And so some of the benefits I think of Amazon Handmade is obviously the size, the scope, the reach. They also have less restrictions. They're not going to tell you what's vintage, what's not. So they kind of let you go on and post, sell a lot more different types of products. So the downside is obviously Amazon, the potential for like package errors, delivery errors. Not that doesn't happen with Etsy, but obviously that's, seems to be, might be one of the issues that you might run into. Then as far as payment processing, Amazon, I believe you're waiting like on a 2-week maybe period. So you kind of have to have some cash flow to be able to be paid by Amazon. And then Amazon does tend to regulate, the individuals businesses that are posting. And so they want you to mail out products within a certain time, be a certain level of responsiveness. So it's a little more regulatory, component when it comes to Amazon. But other than that, I think the huge one would be reach. You're be able to, I think, have a wider audience with Amazon than Etsy. Yes, I want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I just brought up this page in categories subject to approval. Amazon Handmade does need to be approved by them. I've had people a client try and they did not get through. So I don't know, it might be a little bit difficult to get approved. But it's you know, you could do both. Like, why not do both, actually?
All right, so
Thought.
question here. Let me.
By the way, I've bought things on Amazon Handmade, and they have really interesting assortments. So
Let's see here. Biggest challenge, getting lost in the sea of options, Angela says. People not search pages after pages, which we talked about. You know, that's kind of sounds like more of a frustration that I think a lot of business owners, but I think, you know, the misnomer about being online is that, oh, it's such a wide audience, I should be able, I mean, there should be somebody buying my product, but I think that the onus is on us as business owners, right, to kind of really define our product. And then it goes into, actually, Yesem and I were talking about one of the steps in building this webinar that, and it might be something for down the road for us, is trying to figure out who your target market is. And that's kind of more of a marketing strategy, and really understanding what the persona is, where these people are, how they talk, what language, what words they use to search. So I think that's the, you know, the more you really understand who you're trying to reach, I definitely think the higher likelihood that people will find your products because you're able to use those words inside of your postings.
I see that Bridget was asking a question. I'm gonna actually, I took it up because I wanted to just see what's going on as well. I'm gonna add the contact information they're asking. Jackie, maybe you can add yours as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Bridget. Yeah, oftentimes these digital assets, these digital platforms, I just want to expand on what Jackie said. So I agree wholeheartedly. It's about your brand, right? You need to put yourself in your consumer's shoes, and how do they decide, and what are they looking for, and where does it make sense? So it's not just about knowing a bunch of technical tools and putting them to use. It's about, is this the right solution for you? In case of marketplaces, it's a profitability decision and a brand fit decision.
We're trying to make sure we get these questions answered. Is there software tools we can use to identify a niche for a product?
Yes. Software tools to identify a niche for a product. Okay. There are a couple of tools, and there are actually more than a couple of tools, but there are two very large ones. Like I mentioned, we have a consultant who has one of these tools. The other offers I'll tell you about both of them. Let me just type in this email, and Jackie, maybe you can, oh, you already did, okay. Sorry, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Sorry. Okay. I would recommend Jungle Scout. Our colleague Frank has a subscription to that, and he's been super helpful helping us run reports and things like that. And Jungle Scout is a great tool. I've used it in the past. You want to use it for two different levels. One is when you're making a decision to get into what category you want to be present in. It is a really good tool to tell you the overflow, meaning when you take a bird's eye view at a category, how competitive is that category? They've actually produced some scores so you can tell with a single report, is it a 2 or is it an 8? Meaning, is it super competitive, I want to stay out of it, or is it 8? Oh my God, don't miss this opportunity. There's not enough competition. I can really make a difference, right? The other dimension you want to rank is demand. Okay, Emily's going to contribute too. So we're going to add all that. The demand needs to be, the higher demand, the better off you are, obviously. So those two things you want to look for. The other tool I found super helpful is another paid tool, but actually has a free add-on that you can just add to your browser. And I use this all the time. It's called Helium, Helium like the element. And I have it on my browser. It works with Chrome. And when you pull up Amazon, like even as a buyer, I can look at like where that item ranks. In, let's say if I look at kitchen towels, I can see where my choice is ranking overall. It might tell me, hey, this is the number 5 item in this category. So I know a lot of people are buying that. And it's completely free. So I would absolutely recommend that as well. And Emily says there's a free service that automatically sends an email from Amazon, not the seller, requesting a review. Yeah, but the seller has to click the button that authorizes Amazon to request a review from the new buyer. Thank you. Yeah, they're probably very sick and tired of people doing this semi-illegally, like getting, paying people back for initial purchases. I see announcements on Facebook, on Amazon pages all the time. I'm looking for people to review my product for $25. It's not the right way to do it. So Amazon is probably now trying to help the right way to encourage people. So I'll shut up.
Good. Actually, we're reaching the top of the hour. I do want to kind of field this question Angela has about she's created her own face masks, and she's seen that our competitor or wholesalers are selling for $4 and she can't compete, So
Yeah.
Recommendations, what would you recommend for competing and pricing?
I think an item like this, I would probably, you can put it on Amazon, but I would actually try Etsy.
Yeah. And I think kind of the product differentiation, maybe talking about the features of it, like whether it has a filter in it, or how it's made, or the type of rubber band. I know the one that I have irritates my ears, so maybe something, whatever it is that's kind of what is a benefit to the user. You want to try to describe that and show that there's a value in them paying more for your product. So, all right. Actually, Yesem, can you just put the last slide up with our contact information?
Yeah.
Get into the top. I think are we done with the questions, or?
We're done with the questions, but I couldn't find that page just now for some reason. So I just wrote my contact information right in the chat because it was asked, and I think you did as well, right?
Yeah, I did. And then, but I did want to thank all of our sponsors, other chambers, obviously Temecula Valley Chamber of Commerce in particular, because they kind of spearheaded this series, and we're excited to do more with them and our other sponsors. So please feel free to reach out to us one-on-one. Our information is there. You can reach out to our the main office and set up appointments, or reach out to us specifically, individually.
Yeah, and let me just add that there is so much to look at, so much to consider as you venture through marketplaces. We wanted to touch the top of the iceberg and then educate you on decision drivers, like smart ways to go at it. It may be that you have a $9 item, so you can still put it on Amazon if you bundle it. So we're here to help you with those decisions. There's a lot more where this came from. Please contact us and we'll work with you and help make you successful. We appreciate your time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.